Hello, hello. Hey everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Well Versed. I'm your host, Layman. Thank you for listening. Today's episode is really personal one, and honestly, it couldn't come at a better time. Either when you're listening to this, I will be going to Japan next week and South Korea, or by the time you're listening to this, I will be in Japan or South Korea. But I'm taking a solo trip, and it got me thinking a lot about what solo travel has meant to me over the years. I've had friends of mine look at me crazy and be like, I can't believe you're traveling to a country where people don't even speak English by yourself. And so I wanted to just inspire you guys listening about solo travel and why it's something I think everyone should experience at least once in their lives. I know solo travel can be intimidating, it can sound intimidating, and I get it. But what I found is that it's one of the most powerful ways to grow and reconnect with yourself and to stop waiting for the perfect person or like the perfect timing or the perfect plan to finally start living and do the things that you want. So, in this episode, I want to share a few really important lessons that solo travel has taught me and why waiting for someone to join you might not be the best option and probably the biggest thing that's holding you back. So for me, as I was prepping for this episode, I was trying to think of when's the last time I traveled solo, or should I say the first time? And honestly, I couldn't remember, which says a lot because I do a lot of solo travel. From a young age, I just wanted to always explore, and I wanted to explore on my own terms. And so I believe, I could be wrong, but I think my first solo trip ever was either to Brazil or to Tulum, Mexico. And that was one of the most invigorating trips. Let's talk about Mexico. That was one of the most invigorating trips that I've ever been on. I went by myself. At the time, Tulum was very much a untouched area of Mexico, and it wasn't what it is today. I got to learn how to trust myself, and I got to go outside of my comfort zone, and I made so many amazing friends, some of the people who I still talk to today. And it was just a trip that really made me believe in myself more, trust myself more, and really made me think of the fact that I'm living in this world as a single person, but ultimately I have the freedom to do anything that I want to do if I just put my mind to it. So I want to give you guys some tips on how to really push yourself to do solo travel and why you should do it. And hopefully, this episode inspires you to stop waiting on people to do the things that you want to do and to live your life. So, the first step that comes to mind that I want to talk about solo travel specifically is why it's important in the context of growth. So, number one, growth lives outside of the familiar. The first step in kind of stepping outside of your comfort zone is where real growth happens. We all love feeling comfortable, right? We live the same 9 to 5 every single day. We know where we get our coffee. We know what we have to do at work. We know what time we're going to bed. We know when we're going to the gym. But comfort zones are really tricky because they keep us feeling extremely safe. And I probably did describe you. And they also keep us very small. When you travel solo, you're constantly stepping in the unknown. So whether it's figuring out a subway system in a foreign language, or trying a new food you can't even pronounce, or simply navigating a new city alone, every tiny challenge becomes a chance to basically level up yourself. I've been in cities where I've been completely lost, no Wi-Fi, no map that made sense, no one who spoke English nearby, and at first I felt that familiar pit in my stomach where I was kind of freaked out. I'm like, is this where the kidnapping/murder happens? The panicky feeling of what am I doing here? But eventually I figured it out. I asked questions. I talked to strangers. I trusted strangers. I trusted myself. And afterwards, I wasn't just proud. I also realized that I was capable of way more than I thought. So though comfort zones feel amazing, they often protect us, but growth builds us, and solo travel fast tracks that growth in the best way. So really think about it. Think about what you do day to day. Are you constantly in your comfort zone, living the same routine? And how does that make you feel? Have you grown recently? Have you changed? Have you challenged yourself? That will help you gauge if solo travel will be great for you. Another thing that I want to speak to is the idea of loneliness. So sometimes people think of solo travel as being a lonely experience. But when loneliness actually happens, you almost have to listen a little bit more closely. And it's something that I wish a lot of people talked about more. Um, Loneliness doesn't just like hit you before a trip. It can sneak up on you in the middle of it, or even when you're halfway across the world living your dream. I've been lonely on so many trips while traveling, but I also realized that it wasn't really loneliness, it was an uncomfortableness with myself and doing something that I don't usually do. But after I went on the solo trip and I'm on day 3, I realized it was deeper than that. It's just a longing for community. It's a longing for connection beyond surface level. And instead of just like rushing to book a flight home, you kind of have to shift your energy when you're traveling. So it could be going to a restaurant bar and speaking to someone. For myself, I talk to strangers. Like it's so easy for me to talk to random strangers on the street, at restaurants, on the beach. You'd be really surprised how much people want to connect with you, especially when you're not from that country. And speaking to real strangers and like forming real connections and feeling part of something bigger makes it so much more fun. I remember when I was in Rio, I met this one guy who I randomly asked him because he brought his whole surfboard to a breakfast spot and his surfboard was just sitting outside on the patio. And I was like, hey, how often do you surf? And he was like, oh, I've been surfing my whole life. He told me that he had a surf shop and that he moved here 3 years ago on a whim with like $50 to his name and just the plane ticket. And he was now speaking Portuguese. And he told me about all the stuff that he's built in Rio and how he fell in love with Brazil and why he wants to stay there. And then he offered to give me surfing lessons. Now, was I good at the surfing lessons? Probably not. Was I scared? A little bit. But I was like, sure, what are you doing tomorrow? We planned to meet for like 9 a.m. and he gave me some surfing lessons and it was amazing. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't feel a sense of loneliness and then push myself to talk to strangers. And now today, after countless solo trips, I don't feel lonely at all, honestly. So loneliness isn't a failure, it's a message, and it's kind of like your soul asking for a deeper connection or a new adventure. So when you have that loneliness or when that loneliness knocks, you got to listen closely to it and then you got to pull yourself out of it. So that's something to remember. Another thing is I always hear from friends they're so concerned about things going wrong when you travel. I'm talking, what if someone kills me? What if someone attacks me? What if I lose my passport? What if something happens at a bar? And to be honest, danger exists everywhere we live, even in the day-to-day cities that we live in. I live in New York, for example. I've been literally not attacked physically, but attacked verbally on the streets by somebody who probably wasn't mentally stable. I've seen a ton of scary things in my backyard, and that's just New York. You learn street smarts and you use the skills you learn in life to handle these things, but danger exists everywhere. And so part of doing solo travel is pushing yourself a little bit further and stretching yourself to think about number 3, you were built to handle more than you think. It's kind of like a masterclass in resilience, I'm telling you. And I feel that people who solo travel often, especially to international countries, places that are completely opposite from where they live, come home, go to work, engage with friends, engage with family. They are resilient people. Every day you're making decisions, big ones, small ones, without a backup team. You're booking last minute trains when you travel, solving for many crises, trusting your instincts. And then here's the truth. Even if you mess up, because you will, and you're not perfect, it's never catastrophic as it feels in the moment, and you realize the most mistakes are reversible. You also realize that solutions are always available to you, and then you start to build this like really quiet confidence that whispers, whatever happens, I'll figure it out. You also learn to not take shit seriously. So these are kind of skills you bring back when you come home, is that you're resilient. It's not that serious. You will find a solution. You're completely capable. And that quiet energy, that quiet self-trust stays with you long after you come home. And so solo travel is amazing for that because you will be built like a brick. Like I'm telling you, I've experienced some crazy things while solo traveling, and I just knew that my gut instinct was going to work for me, and I knew how to quickly look for solutions, find solutions, trust my gut is a combination of many things, and you end up being okay. And to be honest with you, I've traveled with friends and I've actually been in very dangerous situations with my friends. Now, granted, do I kind of turn my brain off when I'm traveling with a group of people? Probably. But I've been in some pretty crazy, dangerous situations with my friends because one, my friends kind of motivate me to do crazy things. And two, you're not even as alert as you are when you're by yourself. So the third thing I want you guys to remember is that, you're built to handle more than you think. The other thing that I love about solo travel is that solo travel gives you independence, and independence is a love letter to yourself. One of the most unexpected gifts of solo travel is emotional independence. You start becoming your own biggest advocate. You hype yourself up for a hike. You comfort yourself when things don't go perfectly. You celebrate your own little wins, like navigating a new place or trying something scary. You realize that you're not waiting for anyone else to validate your experiences. And so you're not adjusting your plans to fit someone else's mood or needs or schedules. You live purely for yourself, and it's not selfish, it's sacred, and it's something that we need to learn to do more. A lot of us have lived our entire lives being told by other people what we need to do, how we need to live, what is normal. From as young as a baby, your parents influence the way you think, the things you're interested in. The homes you grow up in affect how you see things. When you go to school, it's your friends that are all around you. When you finish school, when you graduate college, it's the work expectation, the societal expectation. But when you travel solo to a place unknown to you, you really learn emotional independence. And what comes with emotional independence is a level of understanding exactly what you want, how to validate yourself, how to listen to yourself, how to comfort yourself, and understanding like what you need and what you want. And that is extremely, extremely valuable. That's one of my favorite things about solo travel is just the emotional independence that you get for yourself. And think about it this way, like I'm sure there's many times you've wanted to go and travel somewhere. Maybe you and your friend have different budgets, or, your friend is more interested in one thing and you're interested in another. Those are all valid things that kind of limit us from traveling far. But when you just decide, okay, my friend's not going to come with me, I'm going to do this because it's important to me and I'm going to go on this trip, you also bring that home and navigate that all throughout your day-to-day life. You're not waiting on someone to go to lunch with you at work or seeing if someone wants to go with you to this place or restaurant because you're interested. You just go yourself. You don't wait for other people to do things. Other people joining in on your activities is a positive, but you're able to do the things you want to do in life on your own. And in some ways, it also helps you pick exceptional people in your life that are the most aligned with who you are, because you're not desperate to have friends. You're not desperate to have people around you. You're not desperate to look for people in a room. You just do, you just live, you just exist on your own. And therefore, you're able to go and do things on your own. And when someone wants to come with you, because you're emotionally independent, you're probably able to assess if this person joining you makes sense, if you're going to enjoy your time with them. Are you aligned? Do you like the same things? So my favorite thing about solo travel is the independence you get. And I truly believe that independence is sort of a love letter to yourself. Another thing that solo travel teaches you is that all so caught up in what the other person is doing, how they're living. We're all comparing ourselves and our experiences with theirs. And solo travel is so humbling because you get to see how people live in all parts of the world. And you realize that the things that you're chasing need to have meaning behind them. And the experiences that you observe in others are completely different tracks from where you're heading. And that's completely okay. You realize how happiness and joy for people in different cultures is different. Some people are driven by money. They're driven by their jobs. In other cultures, people are driven by family. Family ties is what sustains them. It's what keeps them happy. In other cultures, people are driven by an individual, an individualistic society. And so they're focused on themselves and their needs. Wherever you go, it really makes you realize that people live in completely different ways. It humbles you and it teaches you to stop comparing yourself, because we're just a small part of this entire world and we're all on so many different journeys. And people's worlds can be so far from what they portray, trust me, which makes you realize that you just need to travel to take the art that people create and just share a little bit of yourself in the places that you go to. And it also makes you realize that not everything you see online, not everything you read, whether credible sources or not, is actually accurate. And so there's a beauty in seeing a lot of these things for yourself as well. Another one that's really specific to women and why I encourage women to travel alone is that you really learn to not take shit from anyone. It's one thing to be in your comfort zone every day at work, around people, where you kind of can predict their reactions, their expectations from you. But when you're solo traveling, whether it's like a taxi driver, someone at a market trying to sell you something, locals or other travelers, you're on your P's and Q's. As a solo female traveler, you may be targeted and treated in a vulnerable way, and maybe you need to stand up for yourself. And so through solo travel and the practice of saying what you want, saying what you need, having your boundaries, you literally learn to take no shit from anyone. And of course, bringing that back from your solo travel experiences is amazing in your day-to-day life. This one is my favorite because, when I was traveling in Brazil specifically, and I was moving from Rio to Sao Paulo, there were so many things that were going on that were unexpected. And it was so frustrating. Like, everything was going wrong, from like the driver who was taking me to the airport. The flight had issues when I got to the city. The Airbnb wasn't what it was supposed to be. I forgot something in Rio. And I was so annoyed. And on top of that, I was alone. And one thing that I realized is that there's so much value in patience and silence, because you don't have anyone to voice your frustrations to. And learning to kind of keep something to yourself, or should I say being forced to, because really there isn't anyone to talk to, is an amazing lesson I've learned. Like, the negativity and frustration and anger and other emotions are sometimes better unheard, because life is going to move on and it's not the end of the world. And I'm not trying to say like you should hold things in, but sometimes it's beneficial to just take a deep breath, accept that you can't do anything about shit, and keep on moving. Literally, just keep on moving. And that's what solo travel teaches you, is that all this shit is falling to the ground and crumbling. I have no one to talk to about it. I'm just going to fucking handle it myself. And if you apply this in the right way, you will see a very positive impact in your life. It's not just about traveling solo and things going wrong. It's also about your day-to-day. Like, we very much feel comfort in complaining with our friends. And sometimes you do need a good rant. Like, don't get me wrong. Ranting is very important. But other times it's like, can you just swallow it and then move on? I know everyone's talking about the Mel Robbins let them theory. And, there's been so many funny memes like, your boyfriend cheated, let them. And I know we've simplified it, but really and truly, it's really just fuck it. Fuck it. Let it be what it is. I'm going to be okay. It's not life or death. I'm good. I don't even need to tell you that. And I find that when you practice that value in patience and silence, you don't even have the energy to explain stories to people about negative things that occurred. You just want to talk about the positive things. And this is not to say that ranting and letting it out is not important. But if you're someone who tells your friends and the people in your life about all the like negative little things that occur day to day, or just even like general experiences, it really teaches you to value the patience and silence and just say fuck it. And that applies to so many things. Like, we could even think of that in the context of dating, like, don't tell your friends about the guys you go on a date with. Who cares? He's not even that important yet, right? Maybe it was a good date. Maybe it was a bad date. Think about it on your own and swallow it and let it go. Like, there's going to be so many bad dates. So solo travel really teaches you to just like manage the negativity, the frustration, the angers that you experience, and kind of keep them unheard. So have you ever met someone and you were just like, and this could be someone you've known for a long time, and you were just kind of like, wow, this person isn't really real with themselves about what they're feeling. You can sense it. You can see what they're going through. You can feel their energy, but they lack a bit of a self-awareness and a self-assessment into what's truly going on with them. I think that solo travel teaches you to spend time with yourself and be honest with yourself and who you are. And I get it. It's so easy to mask your emotions and keep your heads in the clouds. But you know that saying of like, when people want to move to a new city because they have problems and then their problems just follow them? Yeah. Sometimes there are things that we don't want to admit to ourselves. And sometimes there may be emotions or situations you're too afraid to face. But when you're traveling alone and you have no one to talk to and you have some downtime, because obviously you're going to be making friends, but when you have some downtime, you really start to strip yourself down and get to know every corner of yourself. I've literally admitted things to myself that I had been denying because I was just sitting with my thoughts. And especially today in a world where we're so addicted to our phones, and because you're addicted to your phone and other people are addicted to your phone, it's so hard to just go to a restaurant or a bar in New York and put your phone down and watch people because everyone else is addicted to their phones. But when you're solo traveling, a lot of places that you do go to are not as, phone obsessed. And so you put your phone down and you think to yourself, and you have moments where you face everything you are and everything you feel. And it helps you just realize who you are, some of the things you're facing, maybe things you need to change, what's working for you, what you want. Overall, you're just getting like a better ability to become the best version of yourself. And some of the most evolved people I've met through solo travel, it makes sense because I know these people have so much faith and trust in themselves and they've spent so much time on their own as well. So last but not least is that gratitude expands when you see the world clearly. I know it sounds so cliche, but solo travel teaches you perspective. I'm telling you, you think you have a good perspective, you think you're so worldly, you think you know everything, and then when you travel, especially to different parts of the world, you see life stripped down to its essentials. And specifically to many of us who live in Western society, we have I wouldn't say an unhinged, but we have an unrealistic expectation and ideology of like how the world lives today. And when you meet people with so many things like limited access to healthcare or education or even clean water, things that you take so much for granted every day, suddenly the home that you complain about feels so much more precious and so much more valuable to you. And so I highly encourage people to not only travel to the glamorous places of the world, which are important as well, right? Like we love to go to parts of Tuscany. We love to do a Dubai trip. I love Dubai. Dubai is amazing. But you need to also explore these other places in the world where they aren't so glamorous. And it's not just because I'm going to go do some gratitude investigations and like that's the point of it. No, it makes you a better person. And all the points that I've mentioned today are part of why solo travel is so enriching to you. But I really feel that the biggest thing and lesson from solo travel is that your gratitude expands when you see the world clearly. And so all the things that you do have, even if they're not what you want or what you expected to have in your life, they all feel like blessings. Family feels like blessings. Your health feels like a blessing. And solo travel just really humbles you in the best way. It roots you deeper into gratitude, which is very hard to have sometimes. I'm even guilty of this. Like it took me probably 10 plus years to see clearly that the things that I have, other people wish for, and that I'm so blessed and happy to have what I have. And sometimes I just need to touch grass and smell the fucking roses. But I do now. And I think that's partly due to solo travel and partly due to life lessons, but it really humbles you in the best way. It roots you deeper into gratitude, and you come back seeing your own life with a clearer, softer lens. So if I think there's one message that I want you guys to take away from this episode today, it's just to stop waiting for the right timing, the right partner, your friends to be on the same wavelength and aligned with you. The older we get, life gets more harder, and it's hard to get aligned with everyone and get the right invitation in place and all the right people. So you already have everything you really need inside of you to start living your life and living the life you dream about. And solo travel isn't about running away from your life, but it is about running towards yourself. and towards trusting yourself, towards freedom, towards your own possibility. So if you guys been thinking about it, book that trip, take the leap, show yourself what you're capable of. I will report back on Japan and South Korea. I'm super excited. And if anyone is interested in more of like storytelling about what happens on this trip, I would love to do that. I always have a crazy story from my travel experiences. So yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with someone who might need that little nudge to finally take their solo trip too. And if you have your own solo travel stories, send them my way. I'd love to hear them. Until next time, stay curious. Bye.